Hey guys, I just came back from watching Minari, and if you're wondering if it's worth seeing the winner of the Best Foreign Language Film for the 2021 Golden Globe Awards, I would say in a nutshell, yes, if you just want the quick answer like that. Essentially, I wasn't even wanting to go see this film, with the whole situation where we're supposed to stay out of movie theaters and whatnot. You really have to drag me to see any movie. And so my friends really wanted to see Minari, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I have a duty to actually see it, so it worked out perfectly. They had really high expectations. I had very low expectations. And I have to admit, I don't even watch The Walking Dead. So for me, Steven Yeun, I only see him as a celebrity in interviews and stuff like that. So I never really saw his other work. So I was able to see him with fresh eyes. And that was really important in this role, I think, because my friends thought that it was a little bit hard for them to get out of Steven Yeun and get into his role as a father from Korea. His Korean is pretty good, I would say, and a lot of the language is in Korean. But whether that makes it a foreign language film, I'll get to a little bit later in the video because there's a big debate about that. So overall, I didn't want to see this movie because I came in with the prejudice or expectation that it's just going to be another like diaspora film, and when are we going to, evolve beyond the typical Asian American diaspora film. Not that we shouldn't support them, but I just didn't want to see another one. I would say that this is a graduation of that. And I am so impressed with this movie because it shows the characters, the main characters, like the view of the film is from the parents, the immigrant parents. And you hardly ever see that, especially from the non-white male director gaze. So you really got to see them in their bubble. And this is not one of the diaspora films that I was sort of a little bit bored with, because it's so old, is like usually focuses on the children, like the second generation, like, me, or people who are older Gen Xers, like think about Joy Luck Club, and it's usually about the clash of the old Asian culture is impeding upon, the second generation fully being accepted and assimilated into America. And oh God, there's this conflict between parent and child. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. And I thought that was so refreshing because it was still like the same setting, and the children are still there, but we really get to see what happens when you totally turn the lens and the main characters are the parents who operate in an American world and have to speak English now and then, but we get to see them where almost no white people are present. So that means that they're actually speaking in Korean the most of the time. And it's not a struggle of assimilation. It's a real American story, I would say, because it's a struggle about these people who came to America, and it's like a war, not with white people, but a war with like the land itself. Will this land produce a living? Can we survive here? And, if you're thinking, it just, kind of reminds me of like the immigrant story of like Far and Away, how they've escaped Ireland, and Tom Cruise really wanted to have his own land, in the middle of the country, and he was just going to make it work, be able to survive in America no matter what. And this is a very similar story, except the people come from Korea, and you get to see that those nuances and in a different time frame. Far and Away, I think, was like, 1850s or something, and this was set in I would say late 1970s. Essentially, the filmmaker, the director who also wrote the script, he's like 3 months older than me, so we're both like 42. And I felt that, wow, it really shows how, by this age, in your 40s, when you see the struggle of the parents, especially like the fight scenes, from the kids' perspective, you just think fighting is bad, turn off the fight. But from the filmmaker's perspective and what we're able to see is the real tension between the mother and the father, and you understand why they're fighting. It's still a horrible thing to see, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you do understand that what they're trying to do is they have a disagreement over what the future will bring based on the decisions we're making today. And these are all like unpleasant decisions. You know, they run out of water, and like they don't know if they can survive, and you know they have to take a menial job to be able to survive. Survive and pay the bills during the time, and it was very, I think, real. The other thing that was very cool, if you're talking about just like making the movie, is details, details. They got the details. I don't know. Sometimes I thought, I was like, did they have a, like, how, did they have like, did they go through my old photo albums? Because the little kid, the little son is wearing like cowboy boots, and I thought like I was the only like, kid who wore cowboy boots. They loved Mountain Dew. I loved Mountain Dew. They had like even like the same mats and like the same like, the fan. It was just so pristine. Oh, and then the interior of that old station wagon, which was like an Oldsmobile. Like so many, I don't know why, Korean immigrants had Oldsmobiles. So like it made me remember like that old weird paneling on the side. And even the things that weren't in my experience were in my friend's experience. So the grandmother's just like watching like WWE wrestling all day. That wasn't in my purview. So I just thought, well, I don't know if that's an artistic choice, but it was actually, she was like, yeah, my parents or my grandmother just sat all day and watched, the wrestling. So every single detail, I think they cross-checked to make sure that it was in someone's experience to the point where it was really uncanny. Like, I would say the uncanniest moment for me was when they leave, like, they finally make a sale to a guy who runs a Korean business, and they go through the back entrance where it goes to like sort of like the back alley parking lot area, and I was like, that looks exactly like the area that I was playing in once from one of my father's businesses way back then. And I was like, wow, they really got the details. Even though the movie is set like in the Midwest, and I grew up in LA. But overall, I think that it is worth watching definitely for that, and especially, I think now the non-Asian public is trying to understand, empathize with Asian people where they come from. And I think this is actually a very true to point educational experience if you want to see some of the things that have, brought a community to a point in like kind of how they tick, in their mind. What I loved about these characters, or the setting of it, was, like I said, even though racism is real and it was totally a part of my experience and it's totally part of my artistic experience, and it's like like it's in my head a lot, but I really loved seeing how like the race part was very low. And I am not a person who likes saying that at all. Like, I really like when you do talk about race, but on the other hand, I liked how it did not talk about race that much, and it was really a struggle for this father trying to make it and provide for his family, and it was like man versus nature. It was literally with the ground. And to me, even though like most of this was in Korean, the language, that makes it a very American film for me. He went into the Midwest, and it's really a struggle, doesn't matter, like he had tunnel vision. And I think that is sort of like the spirit of America, the immigration experience, at least the winners, the people who really make it, like that tunnel vision, they're gonna make it succeed, and they're willing to sacrifice things at a high cost. And so that, I think, was very refreshing. Now, my friends who said that they didn't like it, they wanted more out of the film. I think there was two main areas to it. One, because I really wanted to test them because I was like flabbergasted how this focused on the parents, finally give the parents their, time to shine and really see from their heads, a movie. So I was like, well, is it because, you're not represented? Like usually these films focus on us, like the kids, and it wasn't about you. Like, is that sort of why? And I think, yeah, they wanted more from the story of the kids. That was one. So I was just saying, it's not about us right now. This story is not about the us. It's about the parents. And secondly, though, I do totally agree, some of the dramatic points could have been a little bit deeper. They could have gone more with the snake. The snakes doesn't really do anything. No spoiler alert, but it kind of violates one of the rules of drama. It's like, if you put a gun in the story, the gun must go off. If you put a snake in the story, the snake must bite, A snake doesn't bite. But when I looked at the budget, it was $2 million. I was shocked because this is a legit Hollywood film. It was produced by Plan B Entertainment, which is Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston's company. And $2 million, I think, usually is just the fee for the screenwriter. So not only the screenwriter, director, actors, location, they even blow up stuff, and then the white actor, the main white actor, I forgot his name, but he's also a major star. And just a side note, yeah, finally we get to see a movie where the white characters are there, but their characters' arc is not very much developed because they're just a minor character, sort of like what Asian people are always, in the white people stories, and we just get a flat character line, But the main white guy who's in there does have a pretty good arc, but by no means what a white actor would expect. They want this and this and this, and he got this, not bad, and he did a great job. So they wanted it to go more, but I remind of for $2 million, this is more, if this is kind of like a roller coaster ride. For $2 million, this went really loop-de-loop, big, it went places a lot for $2 million. And they were able to get one of the top actresses from Korea, the woman who played the grandma. She is the veteran actress. Kind of like America's, I would say, in that level of Shirley MacLaine, the grand dames. She is the grand dame of, female actors in Korea, and she was able to do this film. In terms of motif, Minari is essentially, it was sort of not really like an ivy, but it's a plant that sort of looks like cilantro, and it's full of micronutrients, and it's very versatile. You can make a kimchi out of it, you can put it into soups, you can garnish with it, and that becomes the motif. The grandma brings some of the seeds and plants it. At first I thought they were just going to have a Minari farm. I was like, well, I don't think there's enough demand for Minari to make a farm. I was like, I don't know if this premise might be flawed, but it turns out that's not what they were growing to sell. That was the magical elixir that the grandma brought from Korea, and it sprouted and grew, and I thought that was beautiful, and really tied into the meaning of the title and the story. So it was very skillful. In terms of you're thinking about cinematography, direction, and writing, and of course the acting. Acting, hands out, everybody did a good job. But you start to see, in a movie, the artistic part really kind of, be there with texture in those three areas. And I would say definitely they worked really hard on it, and they got it. They really got it. Okay, so now let's go to the question of, should this have been in the foreign language film category when it was nominated? Other people are saying that it should have been in the Best Picture for Drama category, just the regular one. I think if you look at the history of the Golden Globes and how Eurocentric it is, they're saying, I guess it is supposed to be in foreign language because uh, everything that is not in English is in foreign language. And I don't think that is right. I think that is actually very Anglo-centric and gets you into, like, even the film The Father that was nominated this year with Anthony Hopkins, that was legit made by a UK French production company. It had British actors and it was set in England. And yes, it's English, but I would argue British English is also a foreign language if you're thinking about it from an American perspective. These are the foreign press in America, and foreign press also includes UK. The BBC is not an American media company. But the way that you've seen the nominations with the Golden Globe Association, it's like UK English counts just under the regular category, because I looked way back, even I was like, Elizabeth should be in foreign language film because that's Elizabethan English, and that was made by UK company, and that has nothing American about it. It's all set in old England. So, but that was nominated for Best Picture Drama, not foreign language film. But if the Academy starts to, or not the Academy, the Golden Globe people start to view UK as also part of foreign language, like it has to be American English, then I would say this does also count as a regular Best Drama nomination, because this is something that especially people in Europe would not know, is that the language, the American language that you use as a Korean immigrant with your second generation kids in America is exactly what you see in Minari. In private spaces, you have Korean spoken as the dominant language and you mix in English. You'll see that everybody in that family, even when they're just alone, still mixes in English. And I'm sure like people who are Spanish speakers have a very similar dynamic. And I would say that is the American language for these people who are now Americans. So in that way, I would say definitely, especially it was set in like Arkansas. I mean, that was the setting. Every single shot of this movie had America in it. They didn't even have of course, for $2 million budget only, they couldn't afford to have flashbacks to Korea, for them to, show like, oh, what was their life before they came to America, which you'd probably see if it was like at least a $15 million budget. So it is, I think, supposed to be in the regular category. But I was glad that it was in the foreign language category because I'm glad that it won. I think that we were able to see now two Asian American directors who won. One for Best Picture Drama and then one for Minari in the foreign language film category. So I thought that was really great. And these awards, you have to think about it also in the sense that it's a very political situation, political game and campaigning, and even I hear like, in the Academy Awards, like sometimes you mess around with the category, like if you see it's too competitive in drama, you'll like throw it into comedy. So there is a little bit of fudging for the awards game, and I'm glad that if they did it that way, I'm glad that they did, because Minari was able to win, and then also Chloe Zhao, I think, was also able to win this year at the Golden Globes. And I think it's great for Asian American filmmakers, because I think, especially with the guy who did Minari, he was about to give up. Like he said, this was his last thing. If it's not going to work out, he's just exiting filmmaking, and then we would have lost a really precious voice in cinema to take us to the next era. So all in all, yes, watch Minari. It's totally worth it to check out, why it won the award. And I think you'll go for a really cool ride, if not just for the time travel. It was just an authentic time travel back to late 70s, early 80s. And the acting was so real, so real. Everybody did such a great job, even like the people at the church, like all the white people extras. And it was it was a little kind, so maybe it was a little bit sanitized about like how not it didn't show like how racist it could have been, but I think that that was probably like a story for another time and another place, and this is a way to just see like, you know, the real intimate space of a Korean household, which I'm saying like you're not gonna, especially from like a Brad Pitt produced movie house, you will never get that kind of like, you know, lens. Like you're literally a voyeur, and I think you'll like it a lot. All right, guys. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.